for the best possible results. How far would you travel? Would you take an international flight to find a hospital that ranked among the very best in the world for the treatment of heart attacks? For the best possible results in 9 cardiac care measures, just how far would you go? St. Tammany Parish Hospital, world-class healthcare, close to home.
Welcome to Healthy Living, brought to you by St. Tammany Parish Hospital. I'm your host, Amanda Paxton. Today we have 2 guests here to discuss topics of children, prevention, parenting, safety, abuse, and divorce. Although difficult topics, these issues are extremely important and affect many children every day. April is National Child Abuse Awareness Prevention Month, and so our first guest today is Dr. Barbara Hebert from Children's Advocacy Center Hope House in Covington. Welcome, Dr. Hebert.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell me a little bit about Hope House and what you do?
Absolutely. Hope House provides some very essential services for the children and families in St. Tammany Parish. When allegations of abuse or neglect arise, when a child discloses something, law enforcement or child protection are typically called in because those are the agencies in our community that can do something to protect children. If they go out and find that, yes, there's possibly something happening or they're not really sure, they'll contact us and make an appointment for a forensic interview. The child comes to Hope House for a forensic interview. They come with their non-offending caregiver. And so Hope House is a house, it's a home. When they come in the front door, we have a living room with toys and a sofa, and it feels very comfortable because everyone is very stressed when this is happening. The children are worried, the parents are having, I typically say not the worst day of their life, but it's probably the second worst day of their life. So they come in, they're greeted by a family advocate who greets them as if it were a home, invites them in. The family advocate talks with the family and the child about what's going to happen so that there are no secrets. Secrets allow abuse to occur. So we're very open, we're very transparent about what's going on. So the child goes with the forensic interviewer and has a forensic interview. Our forensic interviewer is trained in child development, so she knows how to ask questions regardless of the age of the child. She also knows how to ask questions in a neutral, non-leading way, so the child can talk about their experience without being led. So the whole goal is to minimize the trauma to the child when they're recounting their experience. And that interview occurs between just the forensic interviewer and the child. In the next room, law enforcement and or child protection watch a live feed of that interview. They have to be there or we don't do the interview because it's not legal.
Right.
So they're there. So our forensic interviewer, our senior forensic interviewer, Jo Beth Rickles, has been doing this for about 14 or 15 years. Wow. She's got quite a reputation. That interview is recorded, and law enforcement takes a copy of that with them to continue their investigation, and it is admissible in court if necessary. So that's the forensic interview component of what we do. But that's not all that we do, because our mission is to end the cycle of child abuse in our community. So that first component, when the child first discloses, that's their first step toward healing. This forensic interview is another major component in the healing process. But we follow that up with counseling. We provide counseling for any child who walks through our doors. And that counseling is trauma-focused, and also we use play therapy as well, because we see children between the ages of 3 and 17. We provide interviews for children between the ages of 3 and 17. Abuse doesn't just start at 3, but before 3 a child's not really able to do the forensic interview. So if there are concerns about abuse before the age of 3, that child's directed straight to counseling. So we have one full-time counselor, 2 part-time counselors, and we also have an intern from Southeastern who provides counseling as well. We also do a great deal of outreach. This is part of it. We want people to know that child abuse exists, that it's an epidemic in our communities, and that we all need to stand together and say no more. We have a training called the Stewards of Children Training.
I have actually participated in that.
Okay, and it's a wonderful training. And it's an evidence-based training, and it's estimated that that for every adult trained, 10 children are safer.
Wow.
Which is incredible.
That is incredible.
So we'd much rather stop the problem before it happens. We'd love to put ourselves out of business. That's our goal. So we are here to take care of children. The other component of what we do that hardly anyone sees is we have a multidisciplinary team, and that meets about once every month or 6 weeks. So all of the agencies that are involved with the children who've come through our doors since the previous meeting come together. So we have members of law enforcement, members of child protection, individuals from the district attorney's office, our staff. We have medical staff available to talk if necessary. And they talk about the cases that have been through so that we have the professionals talking and understanding what's going on with the child, with the family, what needs to happen, so that no one falls through the cracks, and so that the best possible outcome for everyone occurs.
Wow, that's amazing. Can you give us some local and national statistics about child abuse?
Absolutely. I'll start nationally.
Okay.
That's easier. It is estimated that 1 in 10 children will be sexually abused before their 18th birthday. 1 in 10. And 90% of those children will know their abusers. It's also estimated that 1 in 5 children will be sexually solicited on the internet. Wow. That's mind-boggling. The other national statistic is that it's estimated that 60% of children never disclose. Never disclose. So the ones that we're seeing are the 40%, which worries me for the other 60% very much. So those are some sort of national statistics. Local statistics, people think, oh, child abuse, not in St. Tammany Parish.
Right.
That's not going to happen here. Well, it does. Last year we had 258 children walk through our doors for interviews. 72% of those children were interviewed for allegations of sexual abuse. Again, between the ages of 3 and 17. Our largest percentage are the 7 to 12-year-olds, but there were a number of children younger than 7 who were interviewed. I think one of the most startling statistics is if we take the national statistics and we put those onto our local statistics. There are about 38,000 children in the public school system. If we are looking at 1 in 10 estimated, then we can estimate that there are approximately 3,800 children in our public school systems that are being sexually abused. Not physically abused, not neglected, sexually abused. Take that down just a little bit further, and if my math is correct, that is 126 classrooms of 30 children each. That's shocking. That's shocking. It does happen in our community. We don't like to think about it, but we need to, because until we recognize the ramifications, we're not going to stand up and do anything. We've got to stand up and do something.
Okay. What happens when children don't receive help, that 60%?
It's really, that also is pretty shocking. They go on to have a variety of different complications into adulthood, potentially. And I'm not going to say all, but the majority. So they end up with physical health issues. Could be migraines, it could be stomach issues, it could be diabetes or high blood pressure, heart disease. Research shows that there's a higher percentage of people with those physical issues who were abused as children and never received the help that they needed. mental health issues, anxiety, depression, eating disorders, suicide. Those all also come out as well. We also look at an increased number of interactions with the criminal justice system, with difficulty with academic issues, dropping out of school, risk-taking behaviors like pregnancy, teen pregnancy. So these are substance abuse. Sorry, I almost forgot that one. Issues with substance abuse that follow them into adulthood. So it absolutely is something that needs to be addressed.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today, Dr. Hebert, and we appreciate all the insights you've given us on child abuse and how it really truly affects children every day.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Lori Cage from the St. Tammany Parish Hospital Parenting Center to give us a little more insight into child abuse prevention and how education and support can help.
When it comes to your family's health, you want the best. That's exactly why St. Tammany Parish Hospital and Ochsner are now working together. By uniting two of the highest quality healthcare organizations in the state, we can bring everyone in St. Tammany Parish a higher level of specialty care with advanced procedures and the most advanced technology. Because when your healthcare is better, so's your life.
Welcome back to Healthy Living, brought to you by St. Tammany Parish Hospital. Our next guest is Lori Cage, the Executive Director of the St. Tammany Parish Hospital Parenting Center. Welcome, Lori.
Hi, thank you for having me.
First off, can you tell us a little bit about the Parenting Center and what they do?
The Parenting Center is a wonderful place. It's a place for support and education. We have a play area inside and outside with a professional staff available, and we're open 9 to 1 Monday through Friday. And then we also offer parenting classes. We do free car seat safety checks, a babysitting class. We just have lots of services, and we're just there to help people with education and support.
Can you give us a little insight into reasons for child abuse and neglect?
Well, a lot of them are life stressors, not getting your basic needs met. It could be mental health issues, substance abuse issues. But something that's very common that people don't necessarily think about is unrealistic expectations. And that's, people just don't understand what a 2-year-old's not capable of sitting in a chair for 2 hours during dinner or things like that. So that's something just through education that people can really get a lot of insight and get rid of some of those frustrations that lead to child abuse.
Okay, so is education probably the best way to address these issues?
I think so, with prevention. And we start, I would love it if everybody, including myself, would have taken a babysitting course. We offer Safe Sitter, and that starts at 11 years old and up. And I just think that's a great way to get some skills for parenting and taking care of children, as well as just learning how to handle some emergencies. And I know even if your child is never going to babysit, you still learn some really good skills there. I know my son took it. He's never babysat, but it really, everybody always says when he's around children or cousins that he's just so good with them. And how did he learn all these things? And it's like, well, he went through Safe Sitter,
Right. Can you go into a little more detail about what Safe Sitter teaches?
Absolutely. One of the things it does is just teach some life skills about how to run a business, how to introduce yourself to an adult and question them about what's going on, what are their expectations of their babysitting job. Also, we talk to them about ages and stages, what to expect. Behavior management, which was a biggie for me, is just how do you handle children to prevent the behavior that you don't want, first of all, but then also what do you do if you start getting these behaviors you don't want. And then of course we teach the CPR and infant and child choking and rescue breathing, so that's always a great thing. And then just the little techniques, diapering, just simple things that you don't think about if you've never had a child, or we have a lot of parents that come through some of our prenatal classes that's in boot camp for new dads. It's never even held a baby. So.
Right. Oh, I totally understand. I wish I would have learned how to change a diaper when I was younger.
Right. And their slogan is "Better sitters today make better parents tomorrow," and I could not agree more.
What are some other education opportunities that maybe the Parenting Center offers that could help prevent child abuse and just have better parenting?
Right. I say we cover everything from diapers to divorce. We do a co-parenting class, we do ages and stages, we do building self-worth in your children and the power of praise, potty training, every parent's tool chest, homework help. I know I've taken so many of these classes, and I thought, okay, I don't know if my child just knew I took these classes because I started getting the behaviors I want. I suspect I probably learned a little and started using the techniques. So I can say they really do help. And one of our really good classes is active parenting, and that's a 6-week course. So that really gives you some tools and some meat, and you get an opportunity to practice your skills and then go back. Because sometimes you take a class and then you start doing it and you're like, that didn't work the way I thought, you know? So then you can go back and say, okay, I tried this technique and that didn't work, so what can I do? And a lot of times I always say, we're just there to give you a bunch of tools for your parenting tool chest, because I can say every tool doesn't work for every child, and sometimes what was working at one stage does not work, and you have to switch it up and try something else.
Right. Okay, so what about support?
As well as just our staff being there for support, we do have some support groups. We have a new baby support group, and we also have La Leche League that comes on the first Friday of every month, and they have a support group for us. And then, like I said, just the support of the other parents is priceless, I think. I've been there for 15 years, and I can say I've had many testimonials for people, and a lot of the strength behind the Parenting Center is just having someone else to talk to, whether it's a professional staff or another parent that may be going through the same thing. Sometimes it's even, you know, helping to watch a child while mom goes to the bathroom by herself for the first time in, you know, all week. It's like, oh, yay, I'm going to the Parenting Center, I have 5 minutes alone, you know.
Wow.
So that's really what we're there for, is that support.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And up next, we'll discuss a little more with Lori about divorce and how that affects children.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks for Sunny Face Eggs for my baby sister.
For my fishing buddy.
Thanks for my mama's gumbo. Thanks for my mom.
We enjoy receiving awards and recognition from our peers, but the true reward comes from seeing positive outcomes for our friends and neighbors. So thank you for trusting us. St. Tammany Parish Hospital, world-class healthcare, close to home.
We're back with Lori Cage, the Executive Director of the St. Tammany Parish Hospital Parenting Center, and she's going to give us a little insight into divorce and how it affects children. So can you just discuss divorce and children in general a little bit?
Well, divorce is a huge issue, as we all know, in our country. And right now it's estimated that 50% of all households now that have married parents together, by the time the child's 18, they will be in a family of divorce. Of those 50, the children, half of those children will also see a second divorce happening in their family. So, and 1 out of 10 experience 3 or more parental breakups and such. So, I mean, it's really a huge issue, and it leads to them having to develop, how do you manage yourself in a relationship? Of course, school dropout rates are higher. There's also, which Dr. Hebert alluded to, with sexual abuse, but also with this is another trauma that leads to a lot of physical things that happen later on, just physical issues such as diabetes, heart disease, things like that, which I thought was quite interesting and sad, but interesting, you know.
So what are some common reactions to divorce?
Well, you of course see sadness, grief, anger, tantrums, outbursts, sleeping issues, eating issues, a lot of fear and blaming themselves. A lot of children have fear and blaming themselves. In the younger kids, you tend to see maybe some regressive behaviors, that they were maybe potty trained and now all of a sudden they're not. They need a security blanket. They start having some of that separation anxiety, that they don't want to be separated, and fear of adults. In the older children, you see more common things. They may seem distracted, withdrawn, might start being promiscuous, having drug and alcohol issues, so it can be pretty severe.
And how should parents address these issues?
Well, first of all, you really want to communicate with the children so they can expect what's going to happen, to let them know, you know, mom and dad are separating, we still love you, you're still a member of our family. Our family's not going to look the same, but we're still a family, you know, and that, you know, again, that you just continue to make special time with that child one-on-one. I think what I see a lot of times is the parents get involved with other people or other things or that kind of thing, and the child just kind of feels left, or even in the blended and the mixed families, you know, when you're trying to introduce them to someone else and maybe they have children and that kind of thing, you still need to make sure you maintain that special bond with your child one-on-one that gives them that time, and make them assured that it's just not their fault. And to just, like I said, also keep those expectations of what's going to happen, their living arrangements, where am I going to live, what's my bed, you know, just simple things, and try to keep both households consistent. You know, not just the physical aspects of, okay, if they had their own room here, they need their own room there, but also the parenting, you know, just stay on the same page. And I know it's difficult because obviously you work together for a reason, but you still need to have that united front as a parent, and that'll keep some of those other behaviors in check. And use I messages. Talk, you know, when you're talking to your child, talk about I, not them.
Okay. What are some things that can be harmful that parents should avoid when dealing with this?
Carrying messages between the child, you know, again, the parents may not want to talk, well, you tell mom that, or you tell dad that. Especially when it comes to money issues, you know, just, well, mom said you're going to pay for the shoes, dad said this, you know, those are just really stressful. Quizzing them, that's another thing. Well, what's going on at that one's house, you know, and that kind of thing, and just making them feel guilty and conflicted about who should I be loyal to, you know, am I, and feel like they have to hide. I know our children facilitator, one of the stories she shared was that this little girl said, you know, I feel like I have to hide when I call dad on the phone, because every time I even talk to him on the phone, my mom sits there the whole time and listens and cries. You know, she said, so just trying to put those adult emotions and responsibilities on children is one of the things you really need to try to avoid. And don't make them choose. Don't make them choose if, you know, I have a special event. Who am I going to bring, mom or dad? You know, and don't threaten that, you know, well, you can't see your dad because, you know, don't use that as a punishment. You know, that's just not fair to the child.
Right. What about long distance divorces? What are some things that parents can do to make that a little easier?
That's a very difficult one. Some of the things are just, you know, don't get discouraged, don't get distressed. I know I've had a friend that, you know, they went through a divorce and she's a teenager and she's busy and, you know, running. Just try to be creative and make those opportunities to be together. And also phone calls, you know, now technology is so easy to have those face-to-face conversations, even if they're little. Record yourself reading a bedtime story. Play games on the internet or on the game systems, because you can do that long distance together, even if, you know, that might not be your thing, but it would be a good thing to create those opportunities.
What about co-parenting? Do y'all offer any classes for that?
Yes, we do. We do a co-parenting class, Children in the Middle, and it's a great course. It's 2 nights. It's a total of 4 hours. It's two each night. And we do an adult's version and a children's version. And in the adult version, and a lot of people say, oh, I knew this, I knew that. Well, you did, but it's a good reminder, and also to just see these videos and these scenarios of how you're affecting your children, because it's not about you. The second you became a parent, it stopped being about you. It's about the children. And then we also do the children's version, as I said, and that is an excellent opportunity, because a lot of times kids only have their parents to talk to about it, and they're not necessarily getting maybe the best information or the best support, because it's hard. It's a hard situation, so we do the kids version, and it just helps them to normalize that I'm not the only one feeling like this, because again, they see videos, and we also teach them the I messages, so good communication of how to set some of those boundaries.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. I would like to thank Dr. Barbara Hebert and Lori Cage for being here to discuss the difficult topics of child abuse, prevention, and divorce. This has been Healthy Living, brought to you by St. Tammany Parish Hospital. I'm your host, Amanda Paxton, and we'll see you next time.